View daily documentation. So if you have more than one client, you would select that client. However, I'm only assigned to Mike. Any kind of progress notes you want to put in, you would select here, and it dates it and times it for us. Just he had a bad day, super anxious, and you could have given him a med for it, did something to distract his mind, but that just kind of puts a note in that place. That way, if you ever have to backtrack and be like, oh, let's see what happened on that Thursday that could have caused him to be in such, had such a bad day at adult daycare. Okay, so I had a good question when I originally put my one video out. Do you have to document every single thing that you see? No. If you don't document it, it didn't happen. So, for example, seizures. Our client has a history of seizures, but has not had one since he was 15. Okay, so we won't hit not measured, because that just says that didn't happen. To make it easier for you guys, you just don't do anything. You completely skip over it and only document what pertains to your client. But I will show you what that looks like on each tab, of course, so we can go over it. So, seizures, since I hopped down here anyways. Brittco requires us to have a value. So I will say 1. Or if they had 2 seizures, put 2. If they had 3, put 3. Ideally, we want to do this in live time. So if they had a seizure at time's currently 3:41, so let's say at 2:30. And what happened during this? Here's our breathing options. You can now select more than one. I did update that. Were they incontinent of anything? You would click that here. Did they cry out, salivate, lip smack? What happened with their eyes? Any kind of skin changes? What kind of muscle tone did they have? Behavior afterwards, affected body part, and then here you could just put any kind of notes about it. It lasted 1 minute. What was given, because I do see your EMARs, but you can also just add in here, 1 minute. Notified, and PRN, whatever was given. And then you would save it. I'm not going to save because I don't want it recorded, so I'm just going to cancel. We'll go back up to the top. Sorry, I skipped around. Behavioral support documentation. This is for anyone who has, any sort of behaviors. Again, if your client didn't have any behaviors for your shift, don't touch it. I'm going to pretend my client had, we'll do 1 behavior exhibited. He had some yelling. What did I do? I removed him from the situation. And if your client does have behaviors, they usually have a behavior support plan that tells you the things you can do and what's best for them. Also, if you notice this, anytime you don't save something, it'll repopulate until it's saved. So we're going to say that happened for roughly 2 minutes. No note needed, because what did we do? What was our behavior exhibited? And we'll do now for our time. Save. So then let's say if we're working in a 7A to 7P house, when my 7P come in and they want to see what happened for the day, they can go and see, oh, he had 1 episode. Okay, so I want to keep an eye on that. Today's maybe not his best day. Maybe he has an underlying, infection or something coming along that might be causing these. And take an output, bowel movement. Again, not every single client needs their bowel movement captured, but this is just us working through the measurements together so everyone understands them. Value, I did change this. It says output now, so we'll say we had 1 output and we had a large. And we'll save it for now. However, oh my gosh, I forgot I had a poop at 8 a.m. So we're going to say 1. And we're going to say they had a medium at that time. And if you want to put any notes in, you can. And your notes would be, if you want to say Julos was given, anything like that, you would put that there. Save it. So now I have 2 responses that should show up. And that's what I mean for documenting in time. So if I work 8 a.m. to 3, we'll say 4 since I document 3:43. If I work 8 to 4, then I would want to make sure I documented when this happened. Yeah, you can document, and that was another question. Yes, you can document at the end of your shift, but ideally Brittco is not going to let you backtrack and document for yesterday, so you want to make sure these things happen at the end of your shift. So if my 7A, 7P houses, we want to give a report at 7 p.m., and then you want to make sure you have all your documentation done. Did you put your notes in? Did you do your INOs? Did we make sure all of our MARs were signed off? Because once that day is complete, you cannot go back. We need to document in live time. All right, I'm going to hide responses. Intake and output, again, if we notice this client is NPO, so we would not do an intake oral for this person. It would be G-tube, PEG tube. However, I'll just show you what it looks like. Measured, and if they had, a typical cup of coffee, 240 milliliters, what time did it happen, and we save it. Urine output. I did adjust this to hopefully make all the households happy that have to chart them. So our value, we always need a value. If we had 1, incontinence, adjust your time, save. I know some of you like to include what it smelled like or color. So dark, stinky, smelly, light colored, whatever. You can write that here. You don't have to. We're just kind of monitoring, make sure they're having the right amount. Obviously, the only time we can't put milliliters unless you're actually catching it in a hat. So it would be 1 for, 2 attempts, 1 void, and you just want to save it and adjust the times appropriately. Seizure record recovered. Dressing changes, and if you see, this is for your tube feeds, and this is your dressings changed per order. So, did we do it? Yep, 1 value. When was it? So was it changed? Yep, because it's ordered twice a day. And then we're going to say we did it at 9 a.m. after his bath. Placement check. Anytime a client has a tube feed, we want to make sure that it's working appropriately in the correct position. So description, is the tube intact, flush to the skin? Yes, no. So 1 and yes. If this answer is no, we not only can save that documentation as a no, someone needs to be letting me know what's going on. And remember, if the tubes are ever pulled out, we want to clean the tube off, put it back into place, tape it, get them to the emergency room. You have 2 hours. All right, but ours was intact. We're going to say yes. Signs and symptoms. We had a question about this. So when I'm documenting my signs and symptoms, do I hit just not measured if this didn't happen? So let's look at our description. Anything abnormal you want to note about the tube site. So this would be for my 7 to 7 girls. We always like to talk about the bloats. So, okay, he had a bloat, and so we're going to say 9 o'clock. So that way, if the next guy comes in and he's like, oh, let's see what happened, you can look to see that, okay, they documented that there was an issue. Next, tube feed intake. This is fluids taken or given via the Mickey button or G-tube. So my 7A to 7Ps, this is where we would put our formula and water. So you would just, whatever time you did it, 8, 9, you'd adjust your times. I would say, I do believe you guys are 200, 200, so 400 milliliters water. You don't have to do 200 and then come back in and do 200 again. You just do your 400 flat, give it a save, and then I would also go back in because I also gave formula 200 formula, and that was 8, I think. There we go. Saved it. Boom. And it shows, it doesn't tell your other person what it was, but we have 400 and a 240 at 8 a.m. Vital signs. This is going to be your blood pressure, and it's measured in millimeters of mercury. And this would be your 120s over 61, whatever. Keep an eye on your, abnormals, normals. We don't want it, anytime it's super low, let me know. Anytime it's super high, let me know. Show responses. And that way I can also see a pattern when I check measurements. Heart rate, we're going to say he was a super chill guy today. We're at 72. Oxygen, this is the oxygen saturation read via your pulse ox, and that's that little thing you put on your finger. For the pulse ox, always make sure your fingers are warm. If it's a nail polished finger, you'd want to try to find one that isn't. And then our typical numbers are 90% and above, but ideally 95 and above. Well, we're going to say 95. And then temperature. I apologize. For temperature, we would put whatever it was here, 97.9, and then where was it? Was it oral in your mouth, temporal on your head, axillary for your armpit, and then save that out. And that way it charts it, and your next guy can look and see as well.